In the Middle Ages, 30-year-olds were considered old. Many of us have seen charts showing that the average life expectancy in the Middle Ages was around 30 years. This is misleading, however, because averages are easily skewed. For example, if I earn $1 trillion and you earn just one, on average, we each have $500 billion. But that doesn't reflect reality, does it? The same principle applies to life expectancy in the Middle Ages. The primary reason for such low figures was the incredibly high infant mortality rate, which dragged the average down. If a person survived childhood, they had a good chance of living to 50 or even 60.
Diamonds are rare. Actually, they're not. Diamonds are one of the most common gemstones on Earth, with hundreds of millions of carats mined every year. What is rare are high-quality diamonds, those that are transparent, flawless, and well-cut. Those are the ones that are expensive. However, most jewelry uses less than perfect stones. The perception of rarity is due to artificial scarcity. For nearly the entire 20th century, a single company controlled the market. It strategically released a limited supply of diamonds to keep prices high, creating an illusion of rarity. This was reinforced by a massive advertising campaign that cemented the idea of diamonds as the ultimate symbol of love. As a result, almost every engagement ring today features a diamond.
The forbidden fruit in the Bible was an apple. The Old Testament never specifies that the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil was an apple. This theory likely originated from the 4th century Latin translation of the Bible. The issue is that the Latin word malum can mean both apple and evil. Therefore, the forbidden fruit could have been anything: a pomegranate, a fig, or perhaps something not physical at all. Do lemmings commit mass suicide? No, they do not. Their populations are cyclical, experiencing booms and busts. When their numbers surge, they migrate in search of food and new territory. Sometimes they die accidentally along the way, such as by falling off cliffs or drowning while crossing rivers. But this is not intentional. The myth was popularized by the 1958 Disney documentary Weightlessness. The film crew needed a scene of lemmings committing suicide, and when the animals didn't behave as desired, the crew simply pushed them off a cliff. Wolves howl at the moon. In reality, there is no direct connection between a full moon and wolves howling. Howling is a form of communication for wolves, and they tilt their heads up simply because it helps the sound travel farther. Wolves will howl in complete darkness. However, because moonlit nights are often calm and windless, their howls are easier to hear. Furthermore, it's nearly impossible to see a howling wolf without the light of the moon.
According to the laws of aerodynamics, bees shouldn't be able to fly. In the 1930s, a French scientist asked an engineer to calculate how bees manage to fly. The calculations suggested their wings were too small for flight. The problem was that the calculations were based on how fixed-wing aircraft fly. Bees' wings don't just flap up and down like a bird's. Their movement is far more complex. It wasn't until the 1990s, with the advent of high-speed cameras and advances in aerodynamics, that scientists understood how bees fly, using a complex rotational and vibrational wing motion.
Cavemen lived in caves. Modern research suggests that early humans were nomadic and used caves merely as temporary shelters. In fact, the oldest known human settlements, such as the one in Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania, which is estimated to be 1.7 million years old, have been found in open areas, not in caves. Why detectors can tell if you're lying. A polygraph test measures physiological responses like heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, and perspiration. The theory is that when people lie, they experience stress, which causes these metrics to change. The problem is that the device detects stress, not deception itself. An honest person might be nervous simply because they are being interrogated, while a trained liar or psychopath can remain perfectly calm. Some individuals even intentionally skew the baseline readings by, for example, biting their tongue during calibration. This is why polygraph results are not admissible as evidence in the courts of the United States and many other countries.
Charles Darwin said that humans evolved from apes. Darwin never directly claimed that humans descended from apes. In his book, The Descent of Man, he proposed that humans and apes must share a common ancestor, a missing link.
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. This idea is largely a marketing slogan created by Kellogg's to promote their breakfast cereals. They didn't invent breakfast, but they did turn it into a cultural phenomenon. Breakfast was certainly important before Kellogg's, especially for people who performed hard manual labor in the mornings.
Alcohol warms you up. Not only does alcohol not raise your body temperature, but it can actually increase heat loss. Hard liquor dilates your blood vessels, causing warm blood to rush to the surface of your skin. This creates a temporary feeling of warmth while your core temperature actually drops.
Mice love cheese. This is a myth perpetuated by cartoons. In reality, mice will eat almost anything with nutritional value. Like many animals, they have a preference for sugary foods like fruit and grains. The association with cheese likely comes from a time when cheese was often stored in cellars, where mice could easily find it. People saw this and assumed mice must love cheese.
There are 4 oceans on the planet. As of 2000, there is now a 5th ocean, the Southern Ocean. It didn't suddenly appear. Rather, scientists officially designated the body of water surrounding Antarctica as a distinct ocean, separate from the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. Wolf packs are led by alphas and betas. In the 1960s, researcher David Mech observed that captive wolves formed dominance hierarchies, leading to the theory of alpha wolves. However, Mech later realized that wolf behavior in the wild is completely different. Wild wolf packs are family units, usually consisting of parents and their offspring. There is no alpha-beta hierarchy. Mech has since publicly disavowed his original findings.
The brain rests during sleep. It's a common belief that one of the main purposes of sleep is to give the brain a rest. In reality, the brain remains highly active during sleep. Its activity patterns just change. For example, research on mice has shown that during sleep, the brain activates a self-cleaning mechanism to flush out toxins.
Before Columbus, everyone thought the Earth was flat. This is a myth. As early as the 5th century BC, the ancient Greeks knew the Earth was a sphere. Pythagoras and Plato were among those who supported the idea. In the 3rd century BC, Eratosthenes even calculated the Earth's circumference with only a 2% margin of error. The myth of a flat Earth belief was popularized by Washington Irving's 1828 biography of Columbus, which romanticized a debate between the explorer and scholars. The actual debate was about the size of the ocean, not the shape of the planet. Goldfish have a 3-second memory. This is complete nonsense. Goldfish can remember things for up to 5 months. They can learn to navigate mazes, distinguish between different sounds, and even recognize faces. They can be trained like dogs to perform tricks like swimming through hoops or pressing levers. Their memory and attention spans are excellent.
Dogs see the world in black and white. No, dogs are not completely colorblind. Human eyes have 3 types of color-detecting cone cells, while dogs have only 2. They can see blues and yellows, but cannot distinguish between reds and greens. Their vision is similar to that of a person with red-green color blindness. On the other hand, their sense of smell is about 40 times better than ours. They have up to 300 million olfactory receptors compared to our mere 6 million. Dogs can detect scents that are entirely imperceptible to humans.
Shaking a Polaroid picture helps it develop. No, and with modern Polaroid film, shaking it is actually harmful. It can cause the chemicals to shift and lead to an unevenly developed image. With older types of instant film, you had to peel apart the layers, and people would often wave the photo in the air to help it dry faster. But this is no longer necessary. The myth was solidified by the Outkast song Hey Ya and its lyric, "Shake it like a Polaroid picture." After the song became a hit, Polaroid issued an official statement advising customers not to shake their photos.
Fruit juice is healthy. Not always. While fruit contains a lot of sugar, fructose, fruit juice concentrates it. Juice is easy to drink and quickly absorbed, but it's not as filling as whole fruit. A single glass of juice can contain as much sugar as a can of soda. It's much healthier to eat a whole piece of fruit, which also provides fiber and other vitamins. If you want a tasty and healthy drink, it's better to choose one with zero sugar.
GMOs are bad. Not necessarily. Genetic modification is often used to make plants more resistant to pests and diseases, or to enhance their nutritional value. For example, golden rice was developed to combat vitamin A deficiency. While all GMOs require rigorous testing, the technology is essentially a more precise form of the selective breeding that humans have been practicing for centuries, just at a molecular level.
Your blood is blue when it lacks oxygen. No, blood is always red. Oxygen-rich arterial blood is bright red, while deoxygenated venous blood is a darker shade of red. Veins appear blue because of the way light passes through your skin, not because the blood inside them is blue. Arteries are located deeper within the body, which is why we usually can't see them.
Cracking your knuckles is bad for you. The popping sound is simply the sound of gas bubbles bursting in the synovial fluid that lubricates your joints. It is not harmful. To prove this, Dr. Donald Unger cracked the knuckles on one of his hands every day for 60 years, but not on the other. He found there was absolutely no difference between his hands. The myth was likely created to discourage people from a habit that simply annoys those around them.
You should pee on a jellyfish sting. Please don't. This can actually make the situation worse. The chemical makeup of urine varies, and it can sometimes cause the jellyfish's remaining stingers to release more venom. The correct treatment is vinegar, which neutralizes the toxins and stops the stingers from firing. This myth was popularized by an episode of the TV show Friends.
The pyramids were built by slaves. It's a common belief that the Egyptian pyramids were built by slaves. However, extensive archaeological evidence shows that the pyramids were constructed by paid laborers. These workers were well-fed, received medical care, and were even granted the honor of being buried in tombs near the pyramids. They also appear to have organized into unions.
If you swallow chewing gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. No, it doesn't. While your body can't digest gum, it passes through your digestive system just like other indigestible materials and is excreted in your stool within a day or two. The only way it could cause a problem is if you swallowed a very large amount of gum at once, which could lead to an intestinal blockage, but this is extremely rare.
Weightlessness is the absence of gravity. We've all seen videos of astronauts floating inside the International Space Station, ISS. This isn't because there's no gravity. In fact, the force of gravity on the ISS is only about 10% less than on Earth's surface. The feeling of weightlessness occurs because the ISS and everything inside it are in a constant state of free fall as they orbit the Earth.
Getting cold will make you sick. Cold temperatures themselves don't cause illness. However, cold weather can weaken your immune system and dry out your mucous membranes, making you more susceptible to viruses. We also tend to spend more time indoors in close proximity to others during the winter, which makes it easier for viruses to spread. So while people get sick more often in the winter, the cause is increased exposure to germs.
Fat makes you fat. This is a myth. Weight gain is determined by your overall calorie intake, not just the source of those calories. In the 1990s, when low-fat diets were popular, people often compensated by eating an excess of sugar and refined carbohydrates. Calories add up, regardless of whether they come from fat or sugar. While it's true that fat is more calorie-dense, 9 calories per gram, you can just as easily gain weight by overeating sugary foods. Balance is key.
That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. Please support the video with a like and subscribe to the channel.